He smirked and said, "Rules are rules," as he fined me $500 for the color of my fence. But what he didn't know, that was the last time he'd ever get the upper hand on anyone, because I wasn't just going to fight back. I was going to burn his entire little empire to the ground with receipts. If you've ever dealt with a smug, power-drunk jerk who thought they were untouchable, this story is for you. Hit that like button, subscribe, and buckle up for one of the most deliciously satisfying revenge stories Reddit has ever seen.
He smirked and said, "Rules are rules," as he fined me $500 for the color of my fence. But what he didn't know, that was the last time he'd ever get the upper hand on anyone. Because I wasn't just going to fight back. I was going to bury his entire little empire to the ground with receipts. If you've ever dealt with a smug, power-drunk jerk who thought they were untouchable, this story is for you. Hit that like button, subscribe, and buckle up for one of the most deliciously satisfying revenge stories Reddit has ever seen. Welcome to the neighborhood from hell. When I first moved into the neighborhood, I was expecting barbecues, waving neighbors, and kids playing in sprinklers. You know, suburban bliss. Instead, I met Todd. Todd was the president of our HOA, and not just any president. He was the kind of man who thinks a clipboard and a title make him a king. Picture a guy in his late 40s, with a permanently clenched jaw, mirrored sunglasses he never took off, and the kind of smugness only mediocre men in small positions of power seem to radiate. He ran the HOA like a dictator with a god complex. Trash can out at 9:01 a.m.? $200 fine. Your grass half an inch too tall. Warning letter and a threat. But Todd's own yard? A jungle of broken patio furniture and unpermitted sheds taller than the city allowed. He wasn't enforcing rules. He was using them as weapons, selectively, cruelly, and always for his own convenience. And worst of all, he loved it. He thrived on making people feel small, including me. It all started when I tried to do the right thing. I had just moved in and was trying to stain my fence to match the neighborhood. Problem was, the exact stain the HOA approved wasn't in stock anywhere. So I picked the closest match, barely a shade different. A few days later, I got a fine. $500. I kid you not. $500 over wood stain. I tried to explain. I showed Todd the receipts, the emails from the hardware store, even offered to restain the whole thing once it was available. And you know what he did? He smiled, smirked and said, "Rules are rules." Then he turned his back and walked away. That was the moment something flipped inside me. He thought I was another pushover, another quiet neighbor who'd pay the fine and shut up. But Todd had just made the worst mistake of his petty little life. I knew screaming wouldn't work. Public confrontations never change tyrants, but quiet infiltration, that does. So I volunteered to join the HOA board. I told Todd I wanted to get involved, play the good neighbor. He bought it. Hook, line, and ego. For 2 years, I played dumb. Smiled, nodded, brought cookies to meetings. All while I watched, listened, and learned. I saw how he controlled the board, bullying older members, drowning them in legal jargon, pushing through votes with only his allies present, and paperwork, constantly lost. Especially anything that disagreed with him. But then I found his real Achilles heel, the money. Todd was always bragging about how the HOA was financially sound, that the high fees were necessary to keep the neighborhood clean and safe. Except they weren't. The community pool barely opened. The landscaping was a disaster. Sidewalks cracked, playgrounds rusted. And yet, we paid more than double what nearby neighborhoods did in dues. Something stunk. As the newest board member, I asked for the budget breakdown. Todd chuckled and said, "Don't worry. I've got it under control." Wrong answer. I filed a formal request. HOA bylaws required he respond. He didn't. I followed up. Still nothing. So I started knocking on doors. Turns out, I wasn't the only one asking questions. Over a dozen neighbors had requested financial records in the past. All ignored. One woman swore Todd built a new patio using HOA money. Another said Todd's kids were swimming in the closed-for-maintenance pool. I knew then, it wasn't just mismanagement, it was theft. Eventually, Todd caved and handed over some records. They were a disaster. No consistency, mislabeled payments, vague fees. And then I saw it. A $15,000 payment to a landscaping company that didn't exist. I started digging deeper. Cross-referenced account numbers, public contractor databases, even looked up the LLCs. And there it was. Todd had been funneling money to himself. Inflated maintenance costs, fake admin fees, payments to his buddy's shady construction company, who then split the profits with Todd. I spent months putting together the evidence. Spreadsheets, screenshots, notarized statements from witnesses. I even got a retired CPA neighbor to help audit the books. Todd had stolen over $50,000. And I had everything. The annual HOA meeting was coming up. Normally, barely anyone showed. Not this year. For 3 straight weeks, I knocked on every door in the neighborhood. Told them just enough to get them angry. Promised proof. Promised justice. The night of the meeting, the room was standing room only. Todd opened with his usual smug speech. "Running this community is hard work," he said. "I've sacrificed so much for all of you." That's when I stood up. "Can you explain the $15,000 landscaping fee to a company that doesn't exist?" I asked. He froze. "This isn't the time or place," he said. "No, Todd," I said. "It's exactly the time." I passed out copies of my report to everyone in the room. Whispers turned to gasps. Then shouting. Then fury. He tried to shout over us. Tried to bully his way through. But that night we voted him out. Unanimously. After removing Todd, we hired an outside auditor. Their findings? Worse than we imagined. Embezzlement, confirmed. Fraud, multiple counts. Contractor kickbacks, documented. We reported everything to the police. Filed a civil lawsuit. Froze HOA funds to prevent any more theft. Todd tried to fight it, but he had nothing. He had to sell his house to pay restitution. His contractor buddy was blacklisted from county contracts. His reputation? In ashes. And the best part? Someone in the next town over tried to add him to their HOA board. They Googled his name. He was laughed out of the room. Today, the pool is open. The playground is safe. The landscaping looks like a magazine cover. And the HOA fees? Cut in half. Every time I walk past Todd's old house, now owned by a sweet retired couple, I smile. Because revenge isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, surgical, patient. Sometimes it looks like justice dressed in a spreadsheet. Todd thought he was untouchable, that no one would ever dare stand up to him. But he made one fatal error. He thought the quiet neighbor with the wrong shade of fence was weak. Turns out, I was the reckoning he never saw coming. And I didn't just take his title. I took his throne, burned it down, and built something better in its place. Some people confuse power with control, but true leadership is accountability. Todd learned that the hard way, and I learned that sometimes the best revenge is letting the truth speak louder than their lies ever could. If that revenge story gave you chills, hit that like button and share it with someone who loves seeing karma in action. Drop a comment below. What would you have done if Todd was your HOA president? And of course, subscribe for more epic revenge tales every